What's up, guys? It's the Bluebloods here, coming back at y'all with another 2-minute drill episode. Our boy Beto is still with us. I think this might set his streak for the longest time he's been with us in a row since like February, but he's back. We got two big storylines today, man. One involves Brandon's LSU Tigers, or formerly, I guess their quarterback, so formerly LSU, now free agent TJ Finley. And we also head back up to Indiana to talk about some huge impact transfers that were announced over the past 2 days for them. But let's jump right into this, Brandon. So last week, I covered on Friday the TJ Finley transfer in general. So we won't go back through who he is, his stats, where I think he's going to go, all of that stuff. But I'll let you take the lead first. So as an LSU guy, we talked about the LSU quarterback battle. We both thought TJ Finley was the odd man out and that he probably would transfer. Did you expect him, one, to get this much attention from Power 5 schools, especially SEC schools? And two, what will he bring to a new team wherever he might end up?
Honestly, I absolutely did. I was more afraid than anything that he was going to – so he's from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. I was kind of afraid – it's not Baton Rouge area, but it's close enough. It's about 45 minutes away. It's close enough that like a lot of the kids who grow up here end up going to LSU, or if they're good enough, like to go to LSU, of course, a lot of kids go to like Tech and they go to Louisiana Tech and they go to Lafayette. They'll go to Tulane. It just depends. But if they're good enough to go to like a Power 5 school, like an SEC program, sometimes Texas A&M robs a lot of these kids, and Alabama robs a lot of these kids. I couldn't see him going to Alabama. More than anything, I was afraid of him going to Texas A&M. But it's starting to look like Auburn is a destination for him. I'm not saying the destination, but is a destination. And Lord forbid, Texas is also a destination. He's going to learn the hard way if he ends up at Texas. That's tough. But honestly, Zach, I think that he has a lot of potential. This last season we saw him come in and play for LSU, and he started out really strong. In that game against South Carolina, he looked really good. And overall, really in every game except for the Auburn game, he looked really good. That game, whatever, maybe that's why he's transferring. I don't know. Maybe that's why Auburn is a destination. Who knows? But Zach, he went 80 for 140 last season, 57%. As a true freshman, kind of just thrown into this role. 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I think he has a lot of growing room, though. I'm not going to say like, oh, he came out and showed all this. He was insanely good last season. He was okay. It wasn't the worst performance he could have had, but it was far from the best. He's also just a giant. He's like Cam Newton's size, but maybe the talent's there, maybe it's not. I doubt it, but he definitely has a ton of potential, Zach. I definitely saw a lot of Power 5 programs as a potential landing spot for him. You don't just go to LSU, then transfer out and end up at South Alabama. You don't do that.
I was wondering who you're going to disrespect. I saw your mind go through a few schools, and you were like, nope. But I mean, it might. I don't know if you saw. So today, the reason we got this topic is Finley had an exclusive interview with AL.com today. And the comments that we're talking about, before we get to those, he did mention, Brandon, the second most active team in recruiting him actually is Alabama.
Okay. Look, that's scary to me because it's Alabama and because I know the potential this kid has. So that's terrifying. That's the scariest thing possible in my mind.
But the comments we're addressing here, guys, so, I usually intro everything and then get into it. But I had to get Brandon's opinion on that as the LSU guy on the podcast. But he was asked about, Nix's status on the Plains, and especially, after Brandon, he transferred because of a quarterback battle where he fell behind Max Johnson and Miles Brennan. And Finley has some strong comments about it, is, quote, I know my capabilities, and I feel like if I can beat Bo Nix out, then I'll go there and do what I have to do. but I understand this is a brand new system and that these are brand new coaches. So things that have gone on in the past are really not my concern right now because Bo also has to learn a brand new offense with a new offensive head coach coming in and a new offensive coordinator. So none of those are my concern. So the first, I guess, big takeaway for me, Brandon, is that usually, people are kind of half stepping into a comment like this where they won't name the quarterback out directly. But he was like, listen, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to step on Bo Nix. This is going to be my starting job. I was going to have to do what I do here at Auburn. I mean, so I feel like for me, these comments were very strong. And so I want to know, Brandon, this is going to put you on the spot because I gave my opinion last week. And I'll kind of rehash it next. But if TJ Finley commits to Auburn, which I think he's waiting till June 4th is the date that the SEC is supposed to vote on the interconference transfer rule, and they're projected to knock that down, Brandon. So he wants to wait till he can make sure he's eligible right now this year. If he transfers to Auburn, is TJ Finley the favorite to knock off Bo Nix as Auburn's QB1?
Yeah, he's the starter if he transfers to Auburn, I think. First, I mean, Bo Nix, we know what Bo Nix is. We know his ceiling, and apparently his ceiling came out against Oregon last season. So that was his best showing. It was his first game ever, and it was his best showing by far, I think. Now, I don't know, man. Since then, it's been kind of I'm not going to say all downhill. He's had his ups and downs. Last season seemed like it was all downhill. I'm not sure how he's adapting to this Brian Harsin offense. So, you could probably speak to that a lot better than I could. But TJ Finley is, I'd say, a pretty similar quarterback in terms of style to Bo Nix. They both have kind of a mobility to them, not a ton. Bo Nix is probably more mobile. TJ Finley has a bigger arm. I just think that TJ Finley has a lot more potential, has a lot more to work with. I think that if you get him in your program, you want to go ahead and get him started as soon as you can to unlock that full potential by the time he's a junior.
Right. And I mean, TJ Finley is going to have to outperform Nix by a significant amount because Nix already has an advantage of going through winter workouts with the new staff and also a full spring, which he got to get used to Bobo's offense. Go ahead.
And I'm not saying he's going to be the starter day one. I do think that Bo Nix will probably, and this is if TJ Finley even transfers there, I think that Bo Nix might has a really good chance of starting at the beginning of the season. I could see him getting into some kind of sticky situation like he did last season. And who are they going to replace him with last season?
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who the backup quarterback is. You could.
Grant Loy.
Good God, please do not replace him with Grant Loy. So I think we see Bo Nix get into some sticky situations, and then they see that you actually have somebody who you're pretty comfortable putting in place of him in the game. And once that happens, I think that's it. So
I agree. So I mean, I think it's going to be a tough task because I feel like Nix right now has the support of teammates and he has the support of the fan base and the boosters because of his last name on the back of his jersey, Brandon. Let's be honest. I mean, his dad was one of the better quarterbacks in Auburn history. He wasn't the best by near amount, but he's probably a top 6 quarterback in Auburn history, I would say. So, I mean, he has the legacy thing going for him. The throw at Florida is his defining moment, I think, 94. But for me, so with Harsin's scheme, there's just been a lot of speculation on what he was running at Boise, but Bobo's offense, I feel like Finley might fit that a little bit better. Like you did mention, I think Nix is much quicker, but he's also much smaller. I mean, TJ Finley, that dude is, like you said, a monster. And the thing that I think Finley brings is neither are accurate. So accuracy is not the issue here. Neither guy is going to complete 70, 68, 69% of his passes this year. I think the goal is he has a live arm, and it's who can take care of the ball. And outside of the Auburn game, Finley took care of the ball better in his spots than Nix did. Finley played better. I know this sounds crazy. Finley played better on the road last year than Nix has his whole career.
Yeah.
And some of the turnovers by Finley necessarily weren't his fault. Like the fumble recovery for a touchdown, the offensive line was just decimated by that time at LSU. And when you have Big Cat grabbing you around, you're in your throwing motion and your arm gets hit. That's not necessarily all the way on Finley. And then the one ball was batted down at the line of scrimmage and the defensive end intercepted it. It's like, some of these throws, weren't necessarily all his fault. The offensive line played atrocious. The running game was atrocious for Finley at times. So I mentioned that last week. Let's not put all the struggles LSU had just on Finley. LSU had a lot of problems last year in a lot of offensive areas. Even the play calling was pretty terrible at times. So I just want to say that, but I think Finley's going to have a great shot, Brandon, if he goes to the Plains to compete for Auburn. I don't see him having a shot at Alabama's starting quarterback job. That would be kind of mind-blowing to me if he pulled that one out over Bryce Young. But I guess he's been getting told that he has a shot everywhere. Recruiters lie. But I think his best shot, Brandon, I mentioned it. I think Mississippi State and Auburn would be the two that I think he would have the best shot at getting a starting quarterback job. And the only reason I would put Auburn above Mississippi State is because Will Rogers played out of his mind toward the end of the season last year.
That, and there's no way he fits in a Mike Leach system. So,
he does have the arm on him, though.
He has the arm. I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I say. I just don't see that scheme fit is just not there. And let's be honest, he's not going to be the key. In Mike Leach's system, the quarterback is the key guy. In Harsin and Bobo's system, Tank Bigsby is going to be the guy for Auburn, regardless of who starts.
Yeah.
The offense is running through Tank Bigsby. So it's going to be who could take the ball, who could take care of the ball better, and who can make all the throws. And I think Finley's deep ball is light years beyond what I think Bo Nix's deep ball is right now.
Bo Nix's deep ball, that should send shivers down your spine.
I just want to see. Okay, my question is, all I want to know, when TJ Finley gets on campus, I want the offensive line to let everyone through the line like they did against Georgia last year. Does he roll to his right and throw to the second row? That's the only thing I need to know. If it's a no and he can find a way to get the ball down the field even under pressure, he's my guy. I'm sold. You can have it, because I'm sick and tired of seeing number 10 roll to the right and just throwing it into the crowd. Because if I go to an Auburn game this year, I'm going to the Penn State game, I'm buying tickets in the second row because I'm catching at least 6 balls from Bo Nix if he's a starter.
You're getting a souvenir if nothing else.
Hey, damn right. But let's go up to Bloomington and Indiana, man. They are dominating the transfer portal right now. 2 impact. Well, I say 4-star. One of them was technically a 5-star. In Stephen Carr from USC, man, he was a 4-star for 247. That's why I put it. But a composite 5-star, I guess we'll give them that. But Brandon, they add both of these guys from the transfer. They add defensive lineman Jaren Handy from Auburn, and they land Stephen Carr, former 5-star composite running back from USC. Brandon, both were consensus top 100 recruits. I mean, you look at Carr, running back out of Fontana, California, was the 20th ranked player in the country for the 247 composite back in 2017. And Handy was out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He was the 100th ranked recruit in the composite. It came down to LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss for his recruitment. So, Brandon, when I ask you right now what the 2 biggest criticisms for Indiana were last year, I have a feeling it would be no rushing game. We made fun of their rushing game every time we covered this team. We said it's Michael Penix, or we're going to hand it to Stevie Scott and cross our fingers, and a lack of pass rush down the stretch. So they hit 2 of these big things for me. But what do you think these 2 transfers are going to do for the Hoosiers?
I'll be honest with you, Zach. That was loud, man. We had a thunderstorm down here in Baton Rouge. But I'll be sorry about that. I'll be honest with you, dude. I haven't heard the name Stephen Carr in a while, because it seems like since he stepped foot on campus in USC, what has he really done, Zach? Yes, he's played, but his best season to this point has been 396 rushing yards. So I don't know, man. It seems like he hasn't made that big of an impact. Are there injuries involved in his career? Because it looks like he's played a lot of games each season.
Yeah, he had a plantar fascia injury in hhis foot his freshman year and just never got back because he lost his starting job to I forget the running back's name that they have now. He lost his job and just never got back to like 100%.
I see. I mean, it's just tough to go into the transfer portal as a grad transfer when you have 1,320 yards rushing over your career. I mean, some guys get that in a season. Very good players get that in a season, but still, I mean, that's not like necessarily unheard of as Chuba Hubbard last year. But I don't know, man. I hope he can live up to this hype that he had. I mean, it's tough to be a top 20 player going into college, and then something like this ends up happening to your career. And I don't know, man. I feel bad. I don't want to sit here and tear him down this entire segment, but I can't say anything more than I hope his career turns around here in Indiana, and I sincerely hope that he'll be able to help the Hoosiers play. And honestly, if any team was to do it, if any coach was to convince you that you need to play, who's it going to be? I mean, for me, it's right here in Indiana. Jaren Handy's a different situation though, Zach, and I think he has a lot of potential. He's only he's a junior.
Yeah. Well, no, I actually believe with the new what's it called rule,
He still has 4 years of eligibility, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So there's a lot going on there. He has a ton of eligibility. Jeez. I honestly think that he could be a big force in this defense. Once again, it's another guy who hasn't played a ton of games. Came in as a 4-star, and what has he done since? I mean, better than I do. He played at Auburn. He's been injured or something, huh?
Yeah, well, to be fair, like his first year, so last year he had a chance to start, but the year before Brandon, he was behind Terry Brown and Marlon Davidson and them boys. So you can't really fault him for not playing as a freshman.
Yeah.
But last year it was a tough year, to sit behind someone like Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, but then you don't get a spring practice, then you don't get a summer practice, and then there was a rotating door because the D line was so young, so they were rotating Colby Wooden or Wooten, and they were Chandler Wooten, Colby Wooden. They were rotating this kid. They had Truesdale. They just had so many pieces that they couldn't figure out where they wanted them. So it was just a revolving door on the interior of that Auburn defensive line.
Well, and I only say that because he's only played 8 games in his career. He played 5 games in 2019, 3 games last season. So I didn't know if there were any injury concerns. I still think like this kid's a dog. And honestly, in this Indiana defense, I feel like he can be a disruptor. And I think he has a lot more potential than Stephen Carr. I hate to say that, but I really do. I think that if you're an Indiana fan, this is the player I'm more excited about out of these two.
Yeah, I mean, 6'5", 285, man. I mean, give me that. And he probably steps in, Brandon, to be completely honest with you. And he might be the best interior defensive lineman that this program has, to be blunt. And so when I look at like what he brings just a physicality. He brings a pass rushing ability. He has the ability to play all along the defensive line. And, 247 comparison to Marlon Davidson, his senior year of high school, Brandon, 29 tackles for loss and 10 sacks. That production from a high school player is ridiculous. And the reason he picked Indiana, Brandon, his cousin is Ty Freifogel, the wide receiver.
Okay. That's cool.
So that's kind of how the connection here. And so I think he steps in. I honestly think he's the best defensive lineman they have on the roster. We talked Indiana in our Big Ten in 31 days or whatever. It was either 31 or 30. I don't remember which month it was, but I think it was 30. But we talked about it, and one of the big needs was a true presence in the inside of that defensive line. They found that. And the other thing is they lose Stevie Scott, the running back. They didn't have almost any rushing production returning, Brandon. So even though Carr might not be the 5-star he lived up to be, if he can get them 1,000 rushing yards this year, and just be dynamic in the passing game. He is a receiving back as well. He has great hands. If he can just be that outlet so Michael Penix doesn't have to carry everything on this offense, I think these two pickups could be a huge plus for Indiana, especially when you're trying to compete with Ohio State for the the berth into the Big Ten title game, because you are going to have dogs at every position to compete with what Ohio State's putting out there on the field every weekend.
No, I agree with you, Zach. And just out of curiosity, and I know the answer to this, but did you happen to see his pro comparison?
Who? Stephen Carr?
No, Jaren Handy.
Yeah, it's Marlon Davidson.
Marlon Davidson. Oh, that's so funny. Okay.
That's a pretty darn good comparison there. I mean, Marlon Davidson was a dog in college. You know, he's with the Falcons now. We know what the Falcons defense is. So we'll let that be. But I think both of these guys are huge pickups. I think, like you said, because of eligibility, Jaren is a much bigger pickup for me. And I think he addresses a much bigger need on that defensive line, because to compete, you're going to have a defensive line to compete. Running back's more of like a secondary need, but they had to release some of the pressure off of Michael Penix Jr. because, Brandon, he got hurt last year because I just think he was trying to do too much. Yeah. He was having to carry everything, man. He had to literally carry this offense on his back. So I think it's going to be a huge plus to have someone like Carr who, Brandon, even if he doesn't perform well, just take the defensive eyes off of Penix and put him on a Carr just for a split second so Penix can get a break or maybe even get an opportunity to make a big play elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach.
But guys, let us know what you think. If you're here for TJ Finley, man, where do you think he goes? Where do you think he's the best fit? And, what do you think about his comments on him potentially taking Bo Nix's job? If you're an Auburn fan, what do you think about the confidence of TJ Finley coming in, taking Bo Nix's job? Who do you like better? And what are y'all's opinions on Jaren Handy and Stephen Carr's transfer to Indiana? What do you think their impact's going to be? And what do you think this kind of puts Indiana in the catbird seat to really compete with Ohio State out there in the Big Ten? Y'all let us know. Make sure to comment on this video, give it a big thumbs up, and subscribe. We're inching ever closer to that 200 subscriber mark. If you subscribe, you enter yourself in our 200 subscriber giveaway. That merch is on the way to me. We're about to get out to our first 5 winners for our 100 subscriber giveaway, so we cannot wait to get that out to y'all. And the big announcement we put out yesterday, man, Akil Glass coming on the podcast for an exclusive interview. It will be released Thursday morning on our YouTube channel for the video version and across any and all podcast streaming platforms for the audio version. So if anything else, you're going to want to subscribe to our YouTube channel for that. Turn on your post notification bell so you do not miss when we post that. That we are so excited to have the SWAC Player of the Year on the podcast for an exclusive interview. But guys, as always, man, the 2-minute drill Monday through Friday, every single day, man, with all the breaking college football news. But for myself, for B-Dub, and the 2-minute drill guys, we are out.